Oh my gosh. Did it work? Oh, I think we're live. Damn, that just went live just like that. Are we live up in here? Trying to make dude, we've been struggling for like the last hour trying to get this to work again. I think we are.
Hello.
Let me make sure. Absolutely not.
All right. Can everyone hear us? Can everyone hear both of us talk for a second, Brady?
Yes, it is. I think it's working.
All right.
It's working. This was the most brutal thing I've ever had to set up in a while, but we got it. What's
Two
up,
hours
everybody?
late. I'm so sorry, everyone. Appreciate you all for sticking around for those that did. Hello. Welcome to the Hoops Crush podcast live stream edition. Uh, Tori is trying to get us set us up with all the new fancy graphics and overlays and topic changeovers and things like that. Unfortunately, I'm pretty computer illiterate, so I wasn't able to figure it out. Brady tried his best, got most of it done, and was able to get us live here. So thankfully, we have that. In the future, Tori will not be at an Easter celebration and can help us a little easier. Sorry to Tori for taking up some of his family time.
Yeah, no
Uh,
kidding.
but but anyways, this is the Hoops Crush podcast. That's Brady Parks, aka Crushables. I'm Eric Brandt, aka Hoops Jock. It's been a long time since we did a Hoops Crush episode. I'm so excited to talk to Brady because, um, like I check in on you occasionally, see how you're doing and stuff, but we haven't
Right.
had a chance to really talk ball or anything like that in a while. And it's been so long, I haven't had a chance to congratulate you on your Washington Commanders season.
Oh yeah, thank you.
And
That was awesome. Yeah.
man, that must have been cool to have what was a very unexpected run to the NFC title game there. Almost made the Super Bowl. That must have been crazy for you this year.
Yeah, it reminded me of the 2019 Blazers a little bit. Got to the conference finals championship, and then we didn't stand a chance when we got there, basically.
Right.
And that's literally what it reminded me of. But it was fun. It was very fun, man. I couldn't. The Lions game, that was crazy. And I'm hoping to see that again for the Blazers one day. We'll see, though.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the Blazers, that's another team that exceeded expectations this year. Their Vegas win total heading into the season was most places had at 22 and a half. Some places had 21 and a half. They ended up winning 36 games. So what was your general take on the way the Blazer season went and just how well they did, how long they stayed in the playoff or play in chase and all that kind of stuff? How do you think the season went for you, Brady?
I think it was better than I think most of us expected. Definitely better than I anticipated. The Denny Avdia trade, and he came in and made the team better. Obviously, Kamara making another jump, and just there was inconsistencies at times, but obviously there was those great stretches, and it was a ton of fun. And we're obviously hoping to take another jump next season, but this season was a little fun, and it was fun to talk about the plan for a second there as well. Unfortunately, we didn't quite get there, but yeah, I think this season went way better than any of us anticipated, and it was great. It was fun, and I'm hoping for even better, taking another step in the next season.
All right, yeah. So because of this season we had, a lot of it they can thank Denny and Tamani for,
Right.
but this led to both Joe Cronin and Chauncey Billups being extended, and they are both going to be around for a while. So just kind of what was your thoughts when you heard they were both got extensions? Do you feel like based on this season, has your mindset kind of changed on either of them? Um, or like were you kind of bummed that they signed extensions, or what were you thinking when they both signed multi-year extensions?
Well, when it came to Joe Cronin, I wasn't shocked whatsoever, and I honestly same thing for Chauncey Billups. I didn't really feel any type of way about it because it's kind of what I expected to happen to begin with. Like I didn't think there was any reason for them to fire Joe Cronin based off, obviously they're not gonna be reactionary. We know this Blazers team, they are gonna stay patient, and obviously Joe Cronin getting, like I said, getting extended did not surprise me at all, and I didn't really feel any type of way. I feel like the Deni Avdija trade obviously helped out a ton, and it was a great trade, so we have to all give him credit for that one. Then the Chauncey Billups one, I thought there was a chance he would be gone based off maybe going to another team. There was those Suns rumors a year ago or whenever that was, and I thought maybe those would pop up again, but they quickly put those to rest and extended him obviously before the season was over. So that conversation even didn't have to be had. So I don't really feel any type of way because I'm not surprised by it. Can't say I was bummed because it's just, I think, what most of us should have anticipated, honestly.
Yeah, you see an improvement in any team. They're not gonna get rid of the guys who could claim that they were responsible for that improvement. So whether you believe they have or they played a huge role in that or not, you do have to understand a little bit why they did it. So yeah, I can kind of see both sides of it. Personally, Chauncey got 4 years. You can make the argument that, he improved a lot this year, and they're certainly banking on that. The problem is this sets up a year where, for the first time since, at least since Dame left or was traded, um, there's going to be expectations on both of them now. You can't just say, "Oh, this is a young team." I know Cronin tried to say we're still the second youngest team and all that kind of stuff. I don't know how much of the exit interviews you heard, Brady, or the little press conference they had before the last game, but they tried to kind of temper expectations by saying, obviously playoffs are realistic expectation. Um, but yeah, in my mind, they have to make the play in next year, or it's kind of a failure on both of them. So Cronin's got to make the moves necessary to make that happen without kind of compromising the core either. And then Chauncey's got to coach well enough to get them in a position. And if that doesn't happen, if they're not in the play-in race and are in one of those play-in games next year, I think you can say that pretty easily they both kind of got their extensions on a year that wasn't necessarily fully on them. So I think they have to both take that next step, both roster wise and developmental wise for Chauncey. And everyone's going to expect them to contend for a play-in spot next year. So if they fall far short of that, it's going to look poorly on both of them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the expectations should absolutely be much higher next year. They've obviously kind of talked about wanting to be in the playoffs in general, play in. They didn't want this to ever be a conversation again where that was the 82nd game was their last game of the season, and they fully said that. So I think we're all anticipating hopefully some aggressiveness this offseason and not just staying stagnant and just, rolling with a draft pick and then calling it good, and then that's all you do. Like, we can't expect, don't get me wrong, there can definitely be internal growth, and you guys have kind of alluded to the idea of starting our young core next year, which would be great. But I just also think it would be really weird if you have, you guys have talked about it. If we had so much money, these guys are being paid so much money coming off the bench. Now, granted, it's not going to be easy to get rid of some of these guys that we do have. Like, we know Jeremy Grant's contract isn't the best. So I'm expecting maybe to have Grant moved, and I didn't really watch the exit interviews other than you guys playing them in the streams because that's where I listened to them at. And Grant did sound kind of disconnected from the team a little bit. So I'm kind of hoping he is able to force his way out because that would be nice. I just don't know how easy it is going to be to get rid of him if there's going to be any team that values him. But yeah, we got to find the next couple of additions that are going to help us go to the play in the playoffs, and we can't stay stagnant, or at least I don't think anyone wants to see that be the case. If we don't do anything, it's just going to be a very disappointing offseason. We should be making those moves towards being better, and we'll see what that happens. Lottery luck would help a ton too if we somehow got lucky, which would be great. I think we'd all be going crazy even if we didn't even get number 1, which that would be awesome. But if we get in the top 4, that'd be helpful. Another asset you can use. It would be actually hilarious if we traded the draft pick after Dame's gone. But yeah, I just can't wait to see what Cronin does this offseason, because I'm really hoping to see some aggressiveness.
All right, so we'll talk about some of the names in a minute, but like what if you're Joe this summer, what kind of types of moves are you looking for? Like, are you looking to add to the bench? Are you looking to get rid of a vet or two to just like clear up some of the roster uncertainty in terms of starting versus coming off the bench? Or like, what would be your top priorities heading into this offseason?
Yeah, I think mainly freeing up minutes. I think we just kind of have a logjam with some things, as much as I hate to say it, but I think Anthony would be better off in another spot, honestly. I think it'd be great if I think it'd just be better for both parties if Scoot was starting and Simons was somewhere else where maybe they can go make the playoffs. We've obviously all talked about Orlando a ton. Still think that's a nice spot for him, but there could be some other places. And then Robert Williams, I think, needs to go, but I don't know how easy it is going to be to get rid of him. I thought he'd be traded at the deadline for sure. I thought at least one player traded at the deadline. I thought it'd be Robert Williams. So I think mainly freeing up minutes. That way we don't have such a logjam in some places. And obviously adding some shooting and yeah, so stuff like that, basically.
Yeah, I think last offseason, their priority was definitely to add length on the defense and to shore up that rim protection a little bit. Their rim protection was horrible 2 seasons ago. I think they did a really good job of like addressing that need, but like you have to try and address more than one need sometimes. I think that's one of Cronin's weaknesses so far. Hopefully that gets better, but he seems to be like kind of locked in on one thing to improve each offseason, and he does that, and then it does build your team a little bit. And if you get a player like Denny who's good on both sides of the ball or multiple different things, it obviously helps as well. But they do need shooting. I think that's the number one priority if you're just looking at like what this team needs. Obviously, if they had a shot creator who could shoot as well, that would be amazing. But like, just if you're gonna incrementally build this team, they have to have some shooting. But they can't just add like Doug McDermott to the roster or something and be like, okay, we got a shooter now off the bench, right? So, so they do have to keep in mind when they add shooting that if you add a shooter like that, it does take away from your defense a little bit when they're in the game. And that was a real key, I thought, when they started playing well, is they kind of limited how often their poor defenders were in the game at the same time. So there were a lot of games where one of Anthony, Jeremy, or Ayton missed games, and I think that really helped the rest of the lineup when it was just, if like Anthony's playing with Tumani and Klingon and Denny and either Sharp or Scoot or whoever at the 2, I think it's a lot easier to say, okay, Anthony's offense kind of outweighs maybe some of his defensive liabilities and stuff like that. Whereas if you're playing a lot of these guys together that haven't shown that they can be a good cohesive defensive unit, it struggles. So you don't want to add shooting that detracts from your defense, because they talked about this in their interviews. You have to hang your hat on defense next year. That has to be up to the level where it was towards the second half of the season. And if it is, I I think they have a chance to take that next step that they're hoping they take, and that expectations will be. But if the defense kind of falls off, I don't think this offense is going to improve enough to make up for that. So they can't be like kind of an average offensive and defensive team. They need that defense to be really solid, and then they need to improve the offense while keeping the defense as high up there as possible. So hopefully that doesn't happen to where we just add a bunch of shooting and then hope that it mixes with the defense and everything's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really hoping there's like another Avdija trade that we're not even anticipating. Like, obviously not getting Avdija, but like another one where it's just a trade with no one knew that guy was even available, and he'd be like just a perfect fit for us, whether he's on the bench or maybe. I mean, I like the idea of the starting five we could have next year, but I mean, if there's another addition they can make that would threaten the starting five, I'd be cool with that, obviously too. But yeah, I think exactly what you said. I just really hope that it is addressed in the correct ways and not going after like Doug McDermott or whoever else may be. But defense needs to be our identity. That's what we were good at after the All-Star break, and we just need to do as best as we can to add those guys that would fit exactly what we're trying to do.
All right, Brady. Well, when we were talking about comment or like what we wanted to talk about for this show, topics and stuff like that, you mentioned you wanted to talk about Blazer fans wanting Zion Williamson.
Yes.
So I don't know if that's like you want that to happen or you don't want that to happen.
Really
so
say,
I don't.
Did I?
Yeah, no, you just kind of said you wanted to talk about it. So before I get into that, Brady has his own YouTube channel called Crushables. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. He does have a video recently talking about the Zion era ending in New Orleans, based off them firing David Griffiths and or is it Griffiths or Griffin? I
Griffin,
forget.
yeah.
Griffin. And it came out that Joe Dumars was going to be put in charge there, and then his first job would be to trade Zion. Now, who knows if that's correct or not, but based off that, Brady did a video about the Zion era coming to an end. He also had recent rebuilds of the Kings and Bulls, or he attempted to rebuild the Kings. you kind of struggled with that, right?
Yeah.
That was a tough one.
They were tough.
But if you like that kind of stuff, go check out his channel. Once again, that's Crushables on right here on YouTube. There's a lot of talk that the Blazers, now that they're kind of in that middle area, are going to have to add a star via trade. Now, they could get lucky. Every once in a while you draft someone like a Giannis or a Kawhi, at 15, and they turn into a star. It's possible. So that right. I'm not like saying that's completely out of it, but if we're just like thinking in terms of middle of the draft range or towards the end of the lottery, it's a lot harder to get that star. The chances of you getting it's a lot less. So let's just say they draft another rotation player, but not a star. First of all, before you talk about specifically Zion, how do you get that star? Or do you think it's on the roster right now? Like Chauncey seems to believe, you pretty much have to trade for him, right?
Yeah, potentially. Although my hope is that Avdija could become that for us. I feel like he's shown some potential towards that, but would have to obviously see how he does next season. As far as, are we getting right into the Zion thing on how I feel about that, or do you still want?
So like, if we're not getting a star via the draft, I mean, Zion is an interesting name. Of course, he's a dominant player when he's healthy. That's the problem.
That's the thing. Healthy. When and if is always the case with Zion.
So if the Blazers had a chance this offseason to trade for Zion Williamson, what would Brady Parks do?
I am of the opinion that I would not want Zion Williamson because of the when and the if, and it is always that with him. I just feel like it would be a waste of time. I get the potential, and someone's going to take that swing, and maybe it works out. And don't get me wrong, if it doesn't cost a ton and they do it, it's not going to like piss me off or anything, but it's not what I would do. I'm over Zion at this point. It's always the if and the when, and like if he's healthy, there's this. When he's doing this, it's that. Like, but it's never that with him, I feel like. And again, it all depends. Like, if we didn't give up much to get him, I'm not gonna be like upset about it. Don't get me wrong, but it's not. I'm not all in on let's go get Zion. I want him so badly on this team. I personally don't. And that might make me dumb. I don't know, but I just don't want Zion. And then I know I didn't mention this one, but I've also seen this people wanting Sabonis too. And when it comes to Sabonis, I don't like have or go ahead.
We'll get to him in a minute.
Okay.
Let's finish Zion. Yeah, I was going to bring him up next. Yeah.
Okay, because I've seen that too.
Yep. Yeah, I'm there with you. I would understand the move once again, just like the extensions. I would understand if we traded for Zion. But that seems like the type of move that there's a few teams, in my opinion, that could do that. And like OKC, for example, if they traded for Zion somehow without giving up one of SGA, Chet, or J-Dub, I think they'd be fine, even if he's not like playing all the time. Like, you're basically the same team, only you gave up some of your future assets, right? And like you can maybe take a huge risk like that. If he plays, you're set and like you're so much better. But if he doesn't, like it doesn't really hurt you long term or anything. And now that Zion hasn't reached his games played minimum requirements, that contract you can get out of it at some point, so it's not like a huge burden on your salary cap or anything either. So there's teams like that that could maybe get away with it. Like maybe if like a team like Minnesota found a way to trade for him, obviously they're not going to give up Anthony Edwards, but whatever else they get, they'd still have Anthony Edwards on the roster. And you could do some things like that, maybe. But a team like Portland, it seems like you are basically going all in on Zion for very, very low percentage chance it works out. So in my mind, that's the kind of high risk, high reward type of trade you want to kind of avoid. If it was a lower risk trade, like you mentioned, and people in chat are mentioning this too, if you can get him for like some of your veterans like DeAndre, Jeremy, Anthony, and like one or two first, maybe you consider that. But I do also think Zion he's a power forward. I don't think he can play center like long, like for the full season. And you already have Tamani and Denny at those forward spots. So like, I mean, I guess a 3-man rotation of those three is pretty good, but I don't know how that quite works out. I don't know if he's the right person for that. You obviously have to start him, so you're bringing one of those other guys off the bench, but then he's going to be hurt, so you don't really have to bring those guys off the bench. Maybe he just needs to change the scenery as well. You think, like I heard some people say, oh, well, New Orleans medical staff is horrible. He'll be fine on another team. I'll tell you what, though, that team is not the Portland Trailblazers because they do not have a good reputation. Their medical staff could be fine or whatever, but they've had a this isn't just an indictment on their current medical staff. It's the entire history of their franchise going back to the Bill Walton days. So trading for a guy who's oft injured is not exactly like a good idea in my mind if you're a Blazer fan.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I'm not saying this about everybody, but I feel like some people that are wanting him would be the same people complaining about his availability. So it just needs to be avoided at all costs, in my opinion. And now I get it. If we did trade, like, I don't think this is realistic, but if the Pelicans wanted Grant's contract for some reason and we got Zion out of it, yeah, I mean, I guess I'd be game for that. But it's just the track record speaks for itself when it comes to Zion. There's the weight issues, there's the health issues, and then there's the off the court stuff on top of that
right.
has been following him before. It just, to me, doesn't, like, if you're trading for Zion, he more than likely is your big swing number one option guy, and I just don't want Zion to be that guy for us. I think some other team should try to take that chance. I don't think it should be us. I like what we have at the forward spots right now anyway, and I just know that it's just too risky. I don't know. I don't like it. I just don't think Zion is the right guy to go for. Even though I get it, there could be a huge reward out of it. It's just way too risky, in my opinion, and you could really hurt yourself if the availability issues continue to be a problem.
Yeah, it's see, everyone's just expecting it to be a buy low case, and I think that's most of the people who want to trade for him are just assuming that that's going to be the case. And I don't know. I feel like he's a good enough player that some teams, I always bring this up when Tori and I talk about this, is there was an Eastern Conference executive quoted as saying he'd probably lose his job because he would overpay for Zion if he ever truly became available. So I feel like there's going to be somewhat of a bidding war for him. It also, like, it's not necessarily like good teams that want him. There's all kinds of teams that, let's just be honest, when he plays, he's a draw. Like he puts fans in the seats.
Yeah.
And there are teams that care more about that than building a winning team or whatever. And maybe a little bit of that is happening in Portland. You never know. But it kind of feels that way at times. But there are also other teams that are thinking, wow, if we got Zion, that's going to create some buzz and some fan attention and stuff. And now that all goes away if he doesn't play, obviously. But I think it does create some interest in your team, especially nationally, for whatever team he goes to. So that doesn't necessarily mean he'll have more value, but players like that do tend to get a little more value just because of the draw they are.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously he would put butts in seats, but I just can't get behind it, man. And I feel like maybe a team like Chicago could maybe do that if they wanted to. I think that's where I traded him to in the video I did. I can't remember, though, for some reason. And then I thought about Detroit for a second, too, to pair him with Cade. So, I mean, and obviously you mentioned the Thunder, but I'm not sure the Thunder would want him to add it to that chemistry. Yeah. But that was a good example because they have all the assets they can just throw away or whatever. So, yeah, maybe Utah likes the idea of it if they want to take the chance, but I don't know. I don't want it to be us. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Speaking of Chicago, did you hear what their, I don't know if he's their GM or president of basketball operations, Arturis or whatever his name is.
Right.
Did you hear what he said after the season about?
Yes, I did, but I need my memory refreshed if you remember what he said. I think it was very stupid, but
someone questioned him about like the direction of the team, and he basically said like, "Oh, it's in a great direction. Like we did better than everyone thought we'd do." And
yeah.
And then he was like, the reporter was like, "Well, you're like kind of stuck in the same area you're always in, though." And he's like, "Yeah, but we're on a big upswing right now." And they're like, "How are you on an upswing?" And like he just kept like reiterating the fact that like their things are going exactly like planned, and they like this area they're in right now and all this stuff. And it's like, what?
No. They should. Yeah, I think I did hear that, but
yeah. And they asked him like, "Don't you want to like pick a direction?" He's like, "We are in a direction, and it's going really well," or whatever. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Stuff
That's
like that.
exactly what I'm worried about with the current Blazers. Like,
Yeah, no, we don't want
I
that at all.
I really hope that's wrong. But
I
but
like what the Wizard GM is saying. He's saying all the right things right now. Like, when we make the playoffs, we want to stay in the playoffs, not just shortcut it. Like, that's what you want to hear when you're rebuilding. And I think the Wizards are doing a great job with Will Dawkins.
exactly, and everyone's like, "Oh, they're the Wizards; they're gonna mess us up." But they have all new people in charge as of last offseason, I think. So, as Elizabeth Allen says in chat, he came from OKC. So yeah, I think the Wizards. You never know. Like, so there is a big difference between building the right way and actually building a contender. I lean to say more often than not, it doesn't work out. I mean, only one team can win a championship, and it's really hard to build a good contending team that is a contender for years and stuff like that. OKC has obviously put themselves in one of the craziest windows we've ever seen a team be in, with how young that team is, how many assets they still have, and all that. So it's good to try and copy that, but it's kind of unrealistic to get the SGA part of that and then add quality all-star players around him as well. So it probably won't work, but I do agree that the way he is thinking is way better than the way that we just mentioned the Bulls front office is thinking. And so in my mind, that's the right way to go. And we've seen teams like the Pelicans and the Kings in recent years just absolutely sell out at all costs just to make a playoffs one time. And it just baffles me how you could set up your team to just have that short term of a thing, like just to get your fans excited for like one off season, and then it's like, well, now what, and
and like the
so
Kings right now, they're
right, just fledgling, right, and so even if it doesn't work out for Washington, I think they're doing it right, and I will applaud the efforts for what happens, and they cannot get stuck in a position where if they win like 14 games more than they're expected next year, to then be like, oh, let's go all out for the play-in like the Blazers, So we'll see what happens there, but I can't stand when teams do that. Now, it might help other teams take advantage of them in trades and stuff like that, but it's to me, it's just a horrible decision whenever someone has making the playoffs as their number one goal.
Can't cheat the grind, man. You got to take it the slow approach and build it slowly, unless if there's an opportunity to jump on in a smart positional way. You can't be shortchanging anything when it comes to building rosters. You got to do it correctly. We've all seen multitude of examples. Me coming from being a Commanders fan for years, that just until we got new ownership and a new GM, things were just always so dumb. But things can change, and that's why I feel like the Wizards new front office should get the benefit of the doubt, because I feel like they're doing it correctly. And then you still got teams like the Bulls and the Kings. Like, the Kings did a horrible job on the De'Aaron Fox trade. They didn't get enough in return, or didn't get anything to set themselves up for a better future. They just decided, well, we want to make it this year still. What was that going? I mean, they, like everyone said, they basically built the Bulls in the West. And we saw what the Bulls did in the East. So they brought them to a tougher conference. So it never made any sense. And that's just where teams like the Kings are. And they're going to have to figure out. And then you have Matt Ishbia that we can, I guess, somewhat give applause to for trying to go for it. But he's made a lot of mistakes along the way. And he's put them in a horrible position. And they might have to sacrifice Devin Booker to dig themselves out of it now. And it's just, there's just right ways to go about it, and then there's absolutely wrong ways to go about it.
Yeah, I think you can't be, like, I do agree that it's fine if you want to try and go all in to do whatever it takes, but you also have to be kind of smart with it. You can't just be foolish and just be like, I don't care about draft picks, I'm going to trade them all or whatever.
I don't care about an 8th grader.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's so dumb.
But Blazing Ugg says the hard truth is many NBA owners don't care about winning about a championship. Many of them are fine with owning a franchise because it's a smart business decision that will gain value.
That's
And so,
true.
like, I understand though that yeah, there's like this area like the Blazers for what 8 straight years with Dame like make the playoffs and are good enough to keep all the fans interested, but not good enough to win a championship. That's like a sweet spot that a lot of owners I think are comfortable with. But I don't understand the owners that are fine with that one time or two times. Like don't you want the 8 years of going to a playoffs and making runs? Like that's a lot more revenue. It's just a lot of owners just don't see it that way. They just see that one playoff experience and how crazy the fans like light the beam, and how like those fans just went crazy that year. And it was 16 years out down, like we finally got the monkey off our back, and then they just went right back to making dumb decisions all the time. Like you mentioned, like it came out before they traded Fox that they wanted a win now player, and so they end up with Zach LaVine in the trade instead of multiple picks and assets that they could have had otherwise. And it's weird because they give up they gave up a first round unprotected first swap with San Antonio in the to get DeMar DeRozan in the offseason too in 2031 or something like that. And it's like you're just giving away assets to be mediocre, and so now you don't have a lot of assets in the future to trade, and you're not good enough to do anything either. So that's hopefully we're not talking about that next offseason or 2 off seasons from now being the same kind of area that the Blazers are still finding themselves in. Either this completely bottoms out and fails and falls flat and we can try again a different way, or it works out and everything's good because we're making deep playoff runs and stuff like that. I just don't want to get stuck in that middle ground anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like for the Kings, for example, it's a great season where you're going in with no expectations and you overachieve, but when the expectations come in, that's when things get real and you got to execute correctly. And the Kings have not done that since, they had their special season. They relied on continuity, which that didn't really work out. And then the next season after that, they go for DeMar DeRozan. And, we all know how that ended. Fox requested out. They had to fire Mike Brown. We don't want to be there. Just we hope Cronin is able to do things the correct way and make smarter decisions. So we find ourselves in position to be in the playoffs for years and actually have a chance to contend. And we'll see if they get to that point.
And you mentioned the name Domantas Sabonis earlier.
Yes.
So I wanted to talk about him next. Man, that to me, and I'm sure the way you talked about him earlier, you put him in the same category. That feels like one of those moves that would make us definitely a little better next year, but not good enough to be higher than like maybe the 6th seed or something. And then we're kind of stuck in that range from here until, as cool of a story as it would be for having a Sabonis back in Portland. We're probably going to have to give up a ton for him, and we're going to be stuck right in that range where we're not good enough, but just good enough to squeak in the playoffs every year.
Yeah, Luka just made a half-court shot, by the way. That was cool. But, yeah, so as far as Sabonis is concerned, I think that is there's Blazers fans going crazy about the idea of adding him and that he would make so much sense. And that gets us to – what does that lead us to, though? Like, people really need to ask themselves, is Sabonis the move that gets us to winning a championship one day? I don't think so. I don't think Sabonis is ever – I don't even know what situation he would have to be in to get there. But it definitely isn't in our situation. He would probably have to be. He would have to have. I can't get there with Sabonis. I think that would be very idiotic. I think that limits us so much because you're gonna have to give up. Like they're not just gonna trade Sabonis for nothing. That would be our all-in move. And as you and Tori have talked about, we don't have as many assets as you think we would probably should have. We don't. So once we do make that all-in move, and that would be if we trade for Sabonis. The Kings are probably going to want quite a bit because if you're trading Sabonis, they're finally probably going to admit that they should rebuild. Unless, which I guess we can't rule it out, unless the Kings are like, we want a win now package and for Sabonis still, and that's what they want to do, then maybe we have something we can build towards that. But I still wouldn't want him in that. I think Sabonis would limit us severely, and I think it would be very dumb to trade for Sabonis. I just don't see Sabonis being the answer to getting us closer to where we want to be, in my opinion.
Yeah, we talked earlier about how the defense, I think, took a huge jump when we started limiting how many bad defenders were in the lineup at the same time. And so Sabonis is not a good defender. And it's one of the most crucial positions to have a good defender at. I mean, he's okay positionally, help defense, okay. But, you know, everything else, it's pretty bad. So if we're talking about a lineup where, once again, rim protection, that's something we addressed and finally got better. If now we go back to not having any rim protection, that then makes players on the perimeter get beat more often because they, you know, that was a huge part of their defense this year is having Klingon protecting the rim made it so you can gamble a little more or fight through screens a little more often, things like that. And you don't have to worry quite as much if you get beat because you have a capable rim protector back there. And so, in my opinion, if you go back to, because I mean, Sabonis is going to play 30 plus minutes a game if you get him. And if you go back to not having that rim protection, I think it just hurts every other aspect of your defense. And then I don't know how, I mean, like, obviously our offense would be a little better, but once again, is making our defense an average or below average defense worth, you know, a little bump in offense to probably middle of the pack as well. And then, as JP Savvy mentions in chat, Sabonis has a huge contract too. So then you're also kind of hamstringing like your cap situation. So it's just, man, it's tough to see how that can make us better. So in my mind, you have to find a player better than him that for sure takes you to that jump, or you make little trades that aren't quite this drastic.
Yeah, and like Savvy said, I didn't even get to say that because Sabonis would take a lot of our salary cap, and it's not it, man. Because I think Sabonis is like the last big move we could make if we did make it, and I just don't think that team, like, yeah, maybe playoffs is absolutely something we could make happen, but as far as ever winning a championship with Sabonis as the big addition to this team, I don't ever see that being something that could be realistic for us. So I'm completely all out on Sabonis, and I'm sure as teams get eliminated, we're going to hear other stars Blazers fans will get excited about. And don't get me wrong, there might be some that I can get behind, but so far I'm not in on any of the, you know, the Zions or the Sabonises. I can't get there, man. I don't want either of those guys for each for different reasons, but I think reasons that are absolutely justified. And I know people are thinking about how it would just make us a better team, but you got to also think in the long term, and we got to really think about how much that would limit us if we traded for either of those guys. Zion, not as much, because, like, yeah, there's some ceiling there, but Sabonis would be super limited in the future as far as making our team better after that, if we failed with that.
So do you have any names on someone who you would be excited if we traded for, or is that putting you on the spot too much?
Yeah, I don't know if I've really considered somebody, honestly. That might be putting me on the spot too much, because I really truly don't even know, like, what star I would want on this team right now, because in a way, I really do kind of want to see this starting five that we all dream about start next year together and see what that truly looks like. So I really don't have anybody, because I want Avdia and Kamara to continue to start, obviously, and I would like to see a season of Sharp and Scoot starting together in the backcourt as well. So part of me really wants to see that, but obviously, like I said, if a star is traded for and I can get behind the idea of it, I'm not going to be upset that we're not going to see that. It would be cool if there was like another player that we could acquire that was like on a team that he doesn't fit. And one that comes to mind immediately, even though I'm not really sure he'd even be available. Like, I know there's been the Jabari Smith things before. Like, that's something that could be interesting, but I don't know how they would feel about him, and I don't know where he would. I mean, he would have to. I mean, he doesn't necessarily have to start, but yeah, I don't really know. I don't have anyone at the top of my head. Funny enough, unfortunately.
Yeah. So yeah, like we mentioned earlier, hopefully there's a Denny type trade out there.
Yeah.
Tori and I like tried to go through every team and try to find the Denny, and it's really hard to like think of a realistic scenario, especially since this season in particular we don't have those two lottery picks that we could trade one and still draft with the other one.
Right.
So yeah, it's tough. Um, so while we're on the subject of trades, you and I haven't had a chance to talk about this, I don't think. What were you thinking when you saw the tweets that Luka had been traded, and then everything Nico Harrison and their ownership has said since the trade? Like, makes no sense to me. But what were you thinking? You
Yeah.
think it's fake?
So yes, exactly. I was at my friend's house. We were having like this game night thing. I hadn't done that in a while, so it was fun. And around midnight or whatever, the tweet comes in, and I look at it. I'm like, and none of my friends watch basketball like that, like crazy. So, I was like the only one that like they know Luca obviously, and they understand certain players, but they didn't feel the way I did about it. I feel like so when I saw it, I'm like, oh, that's there's no way that's real. That's absolutely fake. There's no shot that's real. That's not. There's no way. Absolutely not. And then more tweets started coming in saying this is real, blah blah blah. And I think just like everybody, I thought it was absolutely fake. There was no shot. It was a real tweet. I thought Shams was hacked. And that's what I was. That's what I thought. I was like, he's hacked for sure. There's no way that's all they got for Luka Doncic, and Luka's being traded right now. Why on earth would we trade Luka Doncic? It doesn't make a lick of sense. And sure enough, as we all know, as we can see it potentially on the screen, if you're watching the game right now, it is absolutely real. He is playing in the playoffs as a Laker right now, and it's just absolutely insane. And I think to this day, no one can wrap their mind around it. None of it makes sense, and they can justify it, twist it however they want, but it will never, ever make sense. It is the worst trade, potentially. I know people say NBA history. I almost think it could be the worst trade in sports history, depending on how it ages, because obviously you've seen Anthony Davis played for the Mavericks for 2.5 quarters. He looked awesome, and then now they're not in the playoffs. And yet, granted, it is unfortunate that Kyrie tore his ACL, and that they weren't able to see what that team could have looked like in the playoffs with those guys all healthy or whatever. And on paper, that Mavericks team does look good, but it is a smaller window, and still you still have to think about Anthony Davis and Kyrie and their health concerns and how old both of those guys are. It just didn't make sense that you had a 10-year window potentially with Luka Doncic, or however many years you want to say it, and you decided to shrink it to a 1 to 3 year window with Anthony Davis and Kyrie, and you still try to spin it in any way that they've been saying, and none of it makes sense. It just doesn't. No one can wrap their mind around it. Nico is just absolutely out of his mind and doesn't make any sense at all. And we saw, and it was really funny yesterday in the playing game when Anthony Davis limped off the court.
They
Nico is like looking
right
sideways, like
yeah.
that picture is gonna be
A meme,
tweeted
yeah.
forever. It just there's no way to wrap your mind around it. It never is gonna make any sense, and I feel horribly bad for Mavericks fans that have to deal with that. It's just insane that you woke up and I actually went home also after that, because I was like, I couldn't even focus. We were playing Mario Party and I couldn't even focus on anything anymore. I was like, I have to go home, and I did a video instantly.
Mhm.
And yeah, man, it's just, I couldn't believe it. It's just, no one can to this day.
Yeah, I just hear Nico say like, "Well, defense wins championships, and we're never gonna win one with Luka." It's like, what? Like,
Literally in the finals, man. What are we talking about?
you just went to the finals, and you traded all your assets, like pretty much like everything. You made some good moves. You put some good pieces around him, and you went to the finals, and you were at times like one of the better teams in the West this year. He missed a little chunk of the season, and they kind of moved down the standings a little bit, but they could have easily, if who knows if Kyrie gets hurt, if Luka stays, like everything's different from that point on.
Right.
And also Luka comes back, and they could have easily been like where Houston is right now or where the Lakers are right now, instead of them. And man, I just do not understand how you don't extract more value out of the Lakers if you're going to make that move. How you don't get a second first round pick from them,
Or not
how
even open it up, man. Like you only
yeah,
wanted to trade with the Lakers. Like I get they only
yeah.
wanted Anthony Davis, but man, it's just oh man, just and they're having hidden media scrums too, like where no cameras and nothing. Like that just what team does that? It just goes to show that they know that their whole fan base is pissed and then they're hiding behind it.
Hmm.
And it's just baffling. Like Nico has barely said anything, obviously since the trade, and every Mavericks fan absolutely hates his guts, and it's a horrible position that Mavericks fans have been put in because they will love Luka, and we saw the reaction. They had like funerals and stuff outside the arena. It's just
Yeah.
sad stuff, man. If like I know Dame is nowhere near where how good Luka is,
Hmm.
obviously. But if we did that to Dame, and granted, it's not the same, like I said. But if we just woke up one day and Dame was traded for an older 32-year-old, like we'd be feeling the same way. And it just, and I know Dame came into the league much older, obviously, so we wouldn't have had him for as long as the Mavericks had Luka. But I
Yeah.
don't know, it's just something like that that just doesn't sit right with anybody, obviously.
Yeah. I just don't get all this BS. Like, oh, the ownership's trying to tank the value of the team so they can build a casino or move them to Vegas, and like
The
Nico
conspiracy
did.
theories, yeah, I like those.
Also, I hate when people say, "Oh, Nico had no choice. He's just the fall guy for bad ownership."
Yeah.
The dude, I'll mention something else he did later in this stream for a different segment because I want to save that talk for then. But the dude, it really feels like he got a little full of himself after the success of last offseason. And then when that happens, you start to think you're maybe smarter than the room, and you start doing things like, oh, we'd be better off without Luka. I'm going to trade him and show the world that I can build a team without him. He's getting too much credit for this. I'm the one who built this team type of thing. And let's not forget that he's also the guy who blew a pitch to Steph Curry because he pronounced his name
Oh
wrong
yeah.
at Nike and stuff. So like, don't put it past him to mess something up. But yeah, it's weird that like he just all of a sudden is like going off about how Lucas can never win a championship because he doesn't play defense and he just wasn't dedicated. It's like, oh, man, I don't know. I would go to battle with winners like Luca any day of the week versus whatever other team you want to build, no matter how bad his defense is.
And he loved that team. That's another part about it. Like it's not like he ever wanted out. Like obviously media tries to stretch things. Like back when Luke was first there before they had before they had the good team they had around him then. It sounds like he always wanted to be a Maverick, and he's reiterated that even since the trade. He even cried on the night he came back and the tribute. You could
He had
tell
just bought a house.
yeah, you can tell he loved it there. And they said, "We don't care. We're sending you to LA, and that's final." And it just will never sit right with anybody. And once Nico Harrison is inevitably fired, because he will be probably one day, or he'll step down or whatever it may be, that's all anyone's going to remember him for ever is just how dumb he is because he traded Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis.
Well, that's the other thing Nico was trying to say the other day too, is that like, oh, he wasn't going to sign the extension or whatever. Okay, well, make him the bad guy then when it comes to that point and be like, okay, we offered him the extension. He didn't sign it. Now we might have to trade him and then take all these good offers for him. Like, you're going to get a bunch of good offers. So why would you not let it play out that way? And then if he did bail or not sign that extension, he's still under contract for another year. So like, you can still trade him. So I think he was kind of like tricking people into thinking they were going to lose him this offseason when he's not even close to leaving yet. So the whole thing was kind of shady, man.
Almost everything that they have said, Luka has basically denied and said that isn't true. And I mean, Who are we to believe? The guy that needs to hide behind cameras and doesn't want to be addressed by the media, like in front of cameras? Or are we going to believe Luka Doncic, who clearly showed he threw his phone. His phone is broken in the back, and he still uses it. He bought a house in Dallas. He cried when he saw the video tribute. So, like, they can spin it, like I said, in any way they want. But we all know who the bad guy is, and we all know Luka wanted to be there, and they decided we don't want him. We traded him, and they can say that he was overweight. He drank alcohol. He did hookah, whatever they want to say. The man would drop 45, any given day of the week and led you to the finals. And before that, before he even had a great team around him, he led them to the conference finals alone, basically. There's no justification that it can ever be made for it. And I get it. Him admitting that he's wrong now would not really do anything. It would just make him look more dumb. But obviously, him standing on it and acting like that it was still the right decision and he doesn't regret it at all is also really dumb as well. But I don't think there's a way he can win anyway after he already did what he did. So I don't really know if there's anything he can say that's going to win anybody over. So.
Right, but I'll tell you what not to do, and that's burn the bridge with Dirk now too. He's like saying like Dirk's opinion doesn't matter. He's not in charge here or whatever. Like, what is that?
I didn't realize he even said that.
Yeah, he was saying like he doesn't care what Dirk thinks and stuff. Like, man, that's.
And it's funny because I watched a video with Recone. Some of you guys may know him. It was on a different channel, but he was interviewing Mavericks fans the day of the Luka's return. And on Dirk's statue, it says like loyalty never die or fades or something like that, or something like that. And obviously, that's just kind of ironic based off what they did with Luka. So, and now what you said they said about Dirk, I didn't even see that, but that's crazy too.
It was part of that whole like roundtable thing he was on. But
gotcha.
Man. Yeah. All right, so now it's time for a segment we usually do during the season. But since we didn't really have a show much this season, I just wanted to do it now. Do you have some who's crushing it candidates? Do you have time to do that?
Yeah, mine are kind of obvious though, so I don't feel like I'm really breaking anything here, but I'll say some anyway. First guy, I will say I don't really know how much what his future is as far as. I guess I don't know what I'm really trying to say, but my first guy is Josh Giddy because I feel like he did, and as far as like, I know Chicago is not in the best spot in the world, but that Josh Giddy trade looked like it actually aged decently well, and I know a lot of people weren't a fan of the Alex Caruso thing for Josh Giddy at first, and I still think they could have gotten more for Caruso, don't get me wrong, if they would have traded him earlier, but you can't deny that Josh Giddy has been pretty good for Chicago. And where will that lead them one day? That I don't know, but at least Josh Giddy has improved in a lot of different ways of the game as far as shooting as well. And I think he deserves his flowers based off what he was able to do in Chicago after. And granted, I think he obviously fits there a lot better because he has the ball in his hands a lot more. But yeah, that was my first one. I feel like Giddy did a great job submitting himself as a good player in this league in Chicago. So that was my first one.
Nice. Yeah, that's perfect. Because I was going to say, so obviously all NBA guys crush it this year, right? Like if you make an all NBA team or you're an MVP candidate, whatever, like we know those guys crush it. So usually when we do who's crushing it, it's more of like the underrated guys who are having a good stretch or whatever. So right. I went the same route. I wanted to have some players on here that just weren't necessarily the stars of their team, but had really good underrated role player type seasons. And my first guy was also a midseason trade, and the guy who I mentioned earlier wanted to talk about, and that's Quinton Grimes.
Yeah, he was awesome in
When
Philly.
he went to Philly, he played 28 games, averaged almost 22 points per game, 5.2 rebounds, 4.5 assists in Philly. Just broke out there. And there's another guy. Nico traded him and a second round pick for Caleb Martin. That is not looking very good right now. So Quinton Grimes just crushed it, and he earned himself a payday this summer. He's a restricted free agent, and along with your guy, Giddy is also a restricted free agent. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of contract he ends up getting. Because last offseason, he probably, if you sign him to an extension last offseason, he probably could have gotten him for a lot cheaper than you're going to have to pay now. Same with Grimes now. It's going to take a bag to sign him. Now, is Quinton Grimes the type of guy a team like Portland could, if Philly is going for it still, would they be interested in like a Grant for Grimes type of sign and trade? That might be the kind of move I would look at to get out of Grant's contract if possible. But that was just a side note. I thought Grimes played absolutely great. That was someone who he was traded to Detroit and then to Dallas and then to Philly. So he kind of got sent around the league there the last year. But that was someone who, going back to when we were talking about Malcolm Brogdon trades, that I thought would have been an underrated pickup for the Blazers. Never materialized, unfortunately. But yeah, he killed it.
Yeah. As far as a signing trade for Grimes, would he have to make the same amount of money as Grant, or would it not have to be like that?
Kind of depends on teams' cap situations, but it would have to be somewhat similar, unless they could include someone else. So like, I don't know if they have to include like Oubre or something, and then you pay Grimes like $20 million or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. My next one, and I remember this guy because we had a chance to draft him, obviously, and I just don't really ever remember hearing anything about him when he was in New Orleans. You guys might know who I'm talking about. I'm very happy for Dyson Daniels. I feel like he's really also established himself as a really good player in this league. Obviously has a chance to win DPOY. He's been talked about in, like, most improved potential as well. But I feel like they got him into the DeJounte Murray, obviously traded Murray away and got Dyson Daniels in return. And Dyson Daniels has been awesome for Atlanta on the defensive side of the I almost said football. I'm looking at Joe Burrow right now, so I don't know if that's why I said it, but on the defensive side of the ball. So yeah, I think Dyson Daniels, I'm very happy for him and how he was able to kind of find a role in this league, because I just don't know if he really had a consistent one in New Orleans. And once he got to Atlanta, he's done a great job. And, Atlanta might be really benefiting off that trade. I think Atlanta's in a decently better spot than people give them credit for. There's still things to figure out, but I really liked that Murray trade, I like the return they got in the Murray trade.
Yeah, man, 3 steals a game. That's crazy. By far number one in the NBA. Yeah, had a real breakout season. It was good to see. And speaking of that trade, man, another disaster decision by New Orleans to give up some of their assets to go after DeJounte in a short-term trade. Like, stuff like that just puzzles me. But that's definitely a good one. Dyson Daniels had a great season.
All right. And then another thing about New Orleans, I almost don't like. I understood why. I think they just tried the Zion window for way too long. I think they should have given up on it a while ago. And they can never stay healthy either, man. They're always freaking injured. But yeah, like you said, the Murray addition, he tore his Achilles very fast also. So we'll see what they do this offseason, though. Obviously, Zion may be gone. But back to you, what you're going to say.
All right, my next guy is Malik Beasley.
Oh, yeah, he's been
319 threes this year. Insane. Averaged 16.3 points, a big jump over what he had been averaging in the past, and shot 41.6% from 3 on 9.3 attempts. Just great season for him. One of the huge reasons why Detroit was able to take a jump and why Cade in particular played so well, just having that spacing on the floor. And I think that is kind of the blueprint moving forward for our Blazers, is kind of just seeing that aspect of adding that shooting to your core players without giving any of your core up really can make your team take a jump. So, man, Beasley had a great season shooting the ball, and I know they lost today. They had a big lead and then blew it, gave up a 21-0 run in the fourth, but that was a great season for him.
All right, save the best for last. This one's a homer pick, but probably know who I'm talking about. You gotta give Deni Avdija his flowers. I know he had some. I know he showed some promise in Washington, but some of the stretches he was having for us, man. Like I said, I am super excited about the future of him, and I'm almost really hoping he can be an All-Star next year potentially. It would be awesome if we can get another Blazers All-Star and it be a forward for us like Deni Avdija. I mean, have we had a forward All-Star since Aldridge? Is that the last one, probably, if I had to guess?
I mean, that's our last All-Star other than Lillard, right?
Yeah. So
yeah.
So I'm hoping Avdija can take another jump next season. I do think there's potential for that to be the case. So I feel like we have to give Avdija his flowers. I wanted to keep it the last one within the Blazers, and I just obviously loved what Avdija brought to us. And Cronin deserves all the praise in the world for that trade. Remind me I think it's the 2029 pick. Did we trade the second best of those?
Yeah, we currently had at the time 3 second-round picks, one from Milwaukee, ours obviously, and one from Boston, and we traded what will be the second best of those 3.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought, because I mentioned I've heard you guys talking about how we could trade the last pick of those 3. So I couldn't remember what pick we gave up. I knew it was one of the 3, but I knew it wasn't the best one either. And I know Washington probably feels pretty good about what Bub Carrington's done for them this year too. But I don't think any of us really consider that at all, because we have so many guards that we don't even really care about Bub Carrington per se. But I think he's done a great job in DC too. So I feel like both teams have benefited off that trade so far. Although
I mean, I know
some Wizards fans love. I know I've seen Wizards fans love Avdija, and they're sad he was gone or traded.
Yeah, I mean, there were some players like Ware and McCain like that.
I guess we could have drafted instead.
But yeah, obviously the Deni trade was a great trade. Props to Cronin for pulling that off. And when he started saying that, I mean, obviously Deni was one of the names that popped in my mind, but you could have also said that about Tamani.
Yeah.
Tamani took some huge jumps this year. Obviously, if he doesn't make an all-defensive team, I'm going to be pissed, because he definitely deserves to be on one of those 2 teams this year.
Definitely.
He was the main catalyst for our defense improving, just based on his jump and his just ability to change a possession back to our favor was insane this year. And so, yeah, definitely deserves his flowers too.
Is it the executives that vote for the awards, or is it the media? I can't remember.
Or the media votes for the awards because, except for executive of the year, I think it's other executives. But the media votes for the awards because they sent out, I don't know if you saw this, Brady, but they sent out Tamani Defensive Player of the Year packages to all the voting media members. It included like Belgian waffle mix and some other stuff in there, so kind of creative. But yeah.
Oh yeah, because I was gonna say if the executives had anything to do with him getting on an all defensive team, he should get there, because I thought I saw or I think Cronin said that almost every single team called him about Kamara or something like that.
Yeah.
So they should know how good Kamara is. So he better. I was gonna say if they vote for, they better put him on there.
Yeah. So I'm glad you had a Blazer on there. I obviously should have put one on there, but I was trying not to be homerish. My last ones are a duo. They played for the same team. They annihilated us in a game in this season. Both had awesome games against us. That's Peyton Pritchard and Derek White.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
Pritchard obviously should win Sixth Man of the Year, averaged 14 points, 3.8 rebounds, 3.5 assists, shot over 40% from three. Just had an awesome, awesome year for Peyton. And then Derek White averaged over 16 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, 4.8 assists with great defense. And, Porzingis missed a lot of the year. Drew was in and out of the lineup. Tatum missed some games. Jaylen Brown's dealing with a knee issue and stuff like that. He missed some games. And I felt like those two in particular really held it down most of the season. And I think they don't get a ton of credit when you talk about Boston winning a championship last year and then being the second seed this year. But I think both of them are huge reasons why.
Yeah, definitely. Those two were awesome for Boston, and we'll be seeing them tomorrow. Although I probably won't be able to watch that game, unfortunately, because I'll be in my family staying around that game being on.
Yeah.
But that's the series, one of the series I'm least excited about. So I don't really care that much.
Yeah, it should be a bloodbath.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't think Magic have what it takes to upset them.
No, they don't.
But speaking of the playoffs, I know Tori and I had our playoff predictions, which you participated in. Remind everyone who's watching who you had winning it all. And
I am rolling with playoff Jimmy and the Warriors. I posted it on my YouTube community tab, and I'm getting cooked in the comments.
Are you?
People don't like that at all. People think I'm crazy. I don't know, man. I just have a weird feeling about the Warriors this year, and I can't. That Houston Golden State series has me super excited. I can't wait to see how that one's gonna go. But just the Stephen Curry and Jimmy Butler having each other, I just can't wait to see what those two can do together in the playoffs. And I just have a feeling about them going all the way. Maybe they just make it to the finals and fall short, but in OKC, don't get me wrong, it's not like I can't see other teams making it. I just have a feeling about honestly, in the East, I feel like there's only 2 to 3 teams you can make a case for, but in the West, I can almost see you making a case for a multitude of teams. But the Warriors is the team I ultimately picked to win it all.
Yeah, like JP Savvy says, because nobody wants the Warriors to win. That might have been some of the reason why you're getting cooked.
But it's been so long since they've won, but I do get it. They were annoying back then when they would win every single time, but I'm over it, honestly. And I do appreciate how good Stephen Curry is. At the time, I think it was understandable to hate on them. And don't get me wrong, that team, everyone should have hated that team when Durant joined it. That was really annoying and stupid, but you got to appreciate how good Stephen Curry is. And I can't wait to see him and Jimmy together tomorrow, like I said.
Yeah, absolutely.
22, yeah, I guess that wasn't too far. It seems like so long ago, but it really isn't that long. You're not wrong there. Sorry, but it feels like so long ago since they've won anything. But Boston's gonna repeat. I can see that too, obviously. I just didn't want to pick Boston. I think I picked them last year. I can't remember. I knew I had Dallas going to the finals last year, but I don't remember if I picked them to win it all or not. I don't think I did, but
yeah, I remember you killed it in the predictions last year.
Yeah, and I felt pretty good about it.
You know what's funny? There's a team like the Timberwolves that no one's talking about. They didn't have the greatest season, barely avoided the play-in game, and now all of a sudden go into Lakers and destroy them in game 1 and look really good doing so. Is that a team that maybe could have have the type of ascension to a championship that people thought they were going to take when they had a breakout last year and made the conference finals?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, I had the game on while we were doing this, and I'm watching it on mute, so it's kind of hard to dive into everything. But I don't know how many threes they hit, but it looked like they hit a ton of threes tonight. I would have to look at it for sure, but yeah, there's, like I said, I feel like there's a multitude of teams in the West that I could see coming out of it. So I would not be shocked at all if the Wolves also pulled something off here. It would not remotely surprise me whatsoever. So it would not. And I love Anthony Edwards, so I'd be all for it too.
Yeah, I went pretty boring in my predictions. I had OKC meeting Boston in the finals and then Boston repeating. I feel like if they're healthy and everyone's playing, their lineup is just so strong. And they just have the ability to shoot so well that makes it tough for a lot of teams to match them.
Yeah, and they hit 21 threes tonight, dude. Damn.
Nice. That's crazy. Um, so yeah, kind of boring. I do. This is kind of a biased pick, but I did have the Bucks with Dame coming back and making it out of the first two rounds by beating the Pacers. Obviously, they're down 0-1 now with their loss today, but hopefully Dame coming back will help them. And then I had them upsetting the Cavs in the second round. That was kind of the only crazy thing I had in my brackets.
I almost did that too. I actually made my bracket that way, but then I changed it to where they lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers. So.
Yeah. They might not get out of the first round though. The Pacers got them last year, and they could certainly get them this year, especially if Dame's rusty.
Yeah, that is a concern for sure. We'll have to see if Dame can make an impact, which I'm sure he can. They need him, man. The Bucks, just Kuzma was worthless tonight. And then Doc Rivers said he can't do anything.
Zero.
Yeah, that's insane. How do you get 0 stats?
I don't know.
It's just
he played like 22 minutes too.
Yeah, I don't get it, but they need Dame bad. I wonder if he'll come back for game 2. They said game 2 or 3. I wonder if it was like a filled out thing. If they won game 1, if he would have waited to come back till game 3. But with them going down 0-1, I wonder if he comes back game 2. But we'll have to see. But
that's what I'd expect. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
And he was also yapping to Halliburton off the bench, so I need Dame
to come out. He got a T, right?
Yeah, I think he got doubled. Or sorry, I think that's what the app said. It was a double. I think it was a technical on both of them, but yeah, he got a T.
Nice.
My Lakers friend just texted me, "I am scared."
Yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah, thing with the Lakers though, I mean, yeah, you want to win as quickly as possible with LeBron, but they just completely changed their window, and they haven't had an offseason now to set up the best pieces around Luka like Dallas was thought to have been doing.
Right.
So you kind of got to win now because LeBron's up there, but at the same time, you opened up your window for a long time with Luka, and this summer you should hopefully be able to make some moves to make the roster around those two a little better, or 3 if you include Reeves, and then go from there. But you still got to think with Luka in the playoffs and LeBron that they find a way to make the series at least competitive.
Yeah, no, I think I chose Lakers in 7, and I'm still going to stand on that. But I would be happy if the Wolves won too. I don't hate the Wolves, so I'm a big Luka fan though, obviously, so I'm rooting for him.
Remember when the Lakers won their title in the bubble?
Yeah.
The Blazers beat them in game 1.
That's true.
Everyone was talking about that. That's
Charles Barkley was going crazy that year too. Started sweeping in the. Yeah, that was crazy.
Well, he was saying if Zach Collins was healthy, which they weren't, he ended up getting hurt again and was out. But that was probably in the history of Blazers Uprise, that was probably like the pinnacle moment for us so far.
Winning game 1.
Winning game 1 of a first round series, yeah, because the only other, I mean, we made the playoffs against Denver.
Is that the only other series you guys been able to cover? Or is there another one?
Because that was 2021, yeah, and we haven't made the playoffs since.
That's so crazy to think about, man.
Yeah, so the channel's been around for 6 years now, coming up in June, and yeah, those are the only 2 playoff series we've had to cover, and one we lost 1-4, and the other one we had Dame with one of the most incredible performances of all time in a loss. And
I hate thinking about that game every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't even want to think about that game.
Yeah, I know. And then we lost that series. So, yep. Yeah, so it's between that one in terms of just like basketball and then like Stotts getting fired. Like, was the other one we kind of celebrated on because we were not fans of his. But yeah, it's kind of sad how few moments. And then everyone complains about how negative or beaten down we are. And it's like, well, give us something to be excited about. We want to be excited. We want to come on streams and just be gushing about how awesome this team is for an hour or two, but just hasn't happened.
Yeah, it has not. That is unfortunate. So you guys started it right after the 2019 run, didn't y'all? I
Yep.
think is what you guys said.
Yep.
That's unlucky, man. That was a special year. That was so
Mhm.
much fun. Um,
Yeah, Tori was had teamed up with another guy on another YouTube channel. He mostly did highlights, and then Tori was doing a few analysis videos for him. And then after that season, thought, well, why don't I start my own thing or whatever? And so he started this channel, and then yeah, but haven't had any any good fortune since then.
oh
Some
man,
might actually say it's our fault or like it's or
maybe.
something. Yeah.
Who knows?
When did you start your channel?
2016.
Oh, okay, so it's been
So I've
around.
been around for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. November 2016. So, and I started with a multitude. I was doing NFL videos first, also, and then I eventually just switched to 2K all the time. I don't know why I made that decision, but I did. So
Worked out for you.
yeah, I remember having doing videos when we were in the conference finals and how excited I was, but just for it to all come tumbling down. And I was
Yep.
just moved into my apartment too, so I remember that. It was great times, man.
Nice.
Before any
Now you're all
kids
grown
too,
up.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kids either at the time.
All right. So, our I think the plan is to have these pretty frequently. Hopefully, once a week or so. Maybe might there might be some weeks where we're not able to.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, being with families and stuff, it's hard to find the exact time where we can do it every single week at the same time. So we might have to switch up a little bit or miss some weeks, but we'll try our best to have some more consistent coverage. We apologize for not getting any of these out during the season, but it was good to catch up with you, Brady. And
Absolutely.
I hope all of you have a good rest of your weekend. Thank you to all who joined us, and we'll see you next time on the Hoops Crush podcast. You got it, Brady.
Oh, I haven't said this in a while, but I'm prepared. Peace out. Go Blazers. Oh god, my mouse is frozen. There we go. Peace out. Go Blazers again.
Sorry for the botch.